Welcome to Lesson 15 Workbook Exercise video for Hebrew 1 and 2, Bright Old Testament 502-504. Today we're going to be looking at infinitives and participles in sections 20 through 22 of your workbook. So let's get started. This first set of exercises is from Chapter 20, Section 1 in your workbook. This section deals with infinitive constructs. You're supposed to identify the infinitive construct and its root in each case, as well as any pronouns that may be affixed to the end of the verb, as well as any prepositions that might be prefixed to the beginning of the verb. Be careful, not all of these are actually infinitives. So let's go ahead and start with number 1. Number 1 is very straightforward. This is a cal infinitive construct from Zakar, to remember or recognize. We have the lamed preposition on the beginning of the verb, which is the dead giveaway for an infinitive construct, which is why it's mentioned here. Lamed preposition on Zakar, cal infinitive construct. What about number 4, the second one in our list here? This is also a cal infinitive construct from the verb katav, to write. It doesn't show up here on this particular PowerPoint, again, because PowerPoint does not like a final cough, but you'll notice in your workbook that there is a final cough on this particular infinitive. This is a to ms, so the possession, writing, your writing, to ms. So that's why we have it mentioned here, a to ms pronoun on the cal infinitive construct from katav. What about number 3, which is actually number 7, since we're doing every third here in the workbook? How would we parse this one? This is a cal infinitive construct from moot. You'll notice that moot, which is the dictionary form of this particular verb, is the same as the infinitive construct. That's because we use the infinitive construct as the dictionary form for these hollow verbs that have the shurik in the middle, or perhaps a yod, hirik yod, in the middle. We also have the lamed preposition at the beginning, which clues us in that this is an infinitive construct. An infinitive construct, as we saw in number 4, will not always have the lamed preposition, but the lamed preposition on the front of an infinitive is a giveaway that it's an infinitive construct and not an infinitive absolute. How about number 10? Number 10 is another hollow verb, a cal infinitive construct from bo, with a holem vav here as the hollow vowel in between the bait and the aleph. Again, infinitive constructs will take the dictionary form of infinitive construct. We have a shurik on the beginning of this infinitive, which is simply the conjunction, vav. It's a shurik instead of the normal vav plus the shva because this is a bump letter, bait, mem, or pei at the front of the word. This is a bait, vo, so we have the u, the shurik, as our conjunction. Again, we have the final cough, which is a to ms because it's cough plus a comets, even though it doesn't appear here because PowerPoint doesn't like final cough. But you'll see in your workbook there is a final cough here. So this would indicate possession or the object, you're coming, or you are going to come. Again, the infinitive can be translated in several different ways, but here it has that object on it, the to ms, serving most likely as a possessive. What about number 13? Number 13 here is put in your workbook just to keep you honest and paying attention. Even though we see the schwas here in this verb, this is not an infinitive construct, but a cal imperative second masculine plural. The tav has dropped off the front of this verb. The schwa that would have been under the zayin has instead become a hirik because you have 2 schwas in a row, and the rule of schwa says that the first one becomes a hirik. We then have the shurik that is left at the end to indicate the 2 mp. If the shurik at the end was supposed to be a third person plural in order to serve as a pronoun, then we would have this be zikoru. But instead we have zikru, which is the imperative form. Again, Van Pelt is simply being tricky here, making sure you're paying attention. What about number 17? There is no trick here in 17. This is simply a cal infinitive construct from bana. Here we have banot. Third hey verbs will always have ot in the infinitive construct. A third hey verb gives this away every time. And just in case you didn't recognize that this was an infinitive construct, we have the lamed preposition on the front, which is also a giveaway. What about number 20? Number 20 is also a cal infinitive construct from avad, here with the lamed preposition. Let's move on now to our next set of exercises. This second set of exercises from chapter 20 in your workbook is also parsing infinitive constructs. However, these are irregular forms, either a one nun or one yod form. So you have to pay a little bit more attention in order to figure out what exactly is going on here. So for number 1, how would we parse da'at? Da'at is a cal infinitive construct from the verb yada, to know. You'll notice that da'at is also a noun, which means knowledge. So here we have da'at or da'at, in the one case an infinitive construct, in the other a noun case, but spelled exactly the same. You'll have to let context be the determination. What about number 4? Number 4 is a cal infinitive construct from yarash. Again, we have that odd tav that has showed up after the shin, which is reminding us that this is a one yod or a one nun form. We have the lamed preposition on the front with the shva that indicates that this is a infinitive construct. And we do have an object or a pronominal suffix here, the comets plus the hey having the mapik to let us know that this is a 3fs form. How about number 7? How would we parse that one? Number 7 is an obnoxious form, but one that you will see several times in the Old Testament. This is the infinitive construct of natan, both of the nuns having dropped. We still have the tav at the end, which is common again with these one yod or one nun verbs. And we have the lamed preposition indicating infinitive construct, only now instead of a lamed plus a shva, we have a lamed plus a kamets, but it is still infinitive construct. What about number 10? Number 10 is redet. This is a cal infinitive construct from yarad, to go down, the double seglet here, which is a common form of infinitive constructs. Let's move on now to our next set of exercises, section 3 of chapter 20 in your workbook. Here we have some simple translation. Again, you are only doing number 1 and number 4, so how do we translate number 1? Number 1 is straightforward. We have hene, which means to behold. We then have the infinitive construct, shamo, to obey. And then we have a comparative use of min, the min preposition, meaning than, more than. So this is mizbeach, which has to do with sacrifice, and tov, it is good. So more good to obey than the good of sacrifice. What about number 4? We begin with a vav conjunction on a very common verb form here, vayahi, and it was. Then we have a kaf, which is a kaf preposition, as hearing, or as he heard is how we often translate it from shamo. This is to hear, the infinitive, but it is acting as a noun. So as this particular thing, in the midst of the hearing, in the midst of this act of hearing, or when he heard, ha'ish, the man heard, et divrei hanavi, the words of the prophet, vayismach, he rejoiced. This vav in the second verb is a comparative to the first verb. It's really forming a partnership. When this happened, then this happened. And the kaf preposition on shamo, on the infinitive, confirms that. And it was as the hearing, the man, as the man was hearing, or as the man heard the words of the prophet, he rejoiced. And since rejoiced is a past tense, since it is a conversive or a converted imperfect, we would translate the hearing of the infinitive also as a past tense, as he heard. Let's move on now to our next set of exercises in chapter 21. In this set of exercises, we will be parsing infinitive absolutes. Although remember, Van Pelt likes to be tricky, so be careful how you parse these. How would we parse number 1? Number 1 is a straightforward cal infinitive absolute from shamar, to keep or to guard. We're doing every third here, which is 1, 4, 7, 10, 13, 16, 19, etc. However, I want to do number 3 here for you just because of how unique it is. So go ahead and take a moment to see if you can parse number 3. Bow is a hollow verb, and hollow verbs will often look the same in several different forms. So in this particular case, bow is a cal infinitive construct and a cal infinitive absolute. Context will have to tell you how it's being used. But bow is also a cal imperative second masculine singular form from the verb bow. So here we have 3 possible parsings of this particular verb. What about number 4? How do we parse number 4? Number 4 is Van Pelt and Pratico being tricky again. This is actually not an infinitive absolute, since the infinitive absolute is given in number 3, bow. Instead, this is a cal perfect 3ms, he came or entered, from bow. Again, remembering that we give the dictionary form in the form of the infinitive construct for hollow verbs. What about number 7? How do we parse this particular verb? Number 7 is a little tricky in that it's not a cal infinitive absolute. We instead have a cal infinitive construct. You'll notice that there is no vav with the holum. That is not a telltale sign that this is construct. It often happens in the construct, but it's possible for an infinitive absolute to be written defectively without the vav. What is the giveaway here is the schwa underneath the shin. Reduction has taken place as this verb has gone into a construct chain. As the accent has shifted to the absolute noun at the end of the chain, all of the vowels in the chain reduce, so that we have a schwa instead of the normal kamets. So this is a cal infinitive construct from shalak, to send. What about number 10? Number 10 is also not a cal infinitive, either construct or absolute. Instead, this is a cal imperative second masculine singular. We know that it's an imperative or an infinitive construct because of the schwa underneath the shin. Reduction has taken place. However, there is no holum or holum vav, so it's not an infinitive, which leaves us with a 2ms. The tav has simply dropped off the front of the verb. Again, Van Pelt and Pratico are being tricky here. What about number 13? How do we parse that one? And again, I'll give you a clue. Notice the oat at the end. The oat is a giveaway that this is a cal infinitive construct of a third hey verb. In this case, Allah, to go up. Cal infinitive construct. What about number 16? In number 16, we finally have another cal infinitive absolute. We have the kamets under the bait, we have the holum over the chet, so this is a cal infinitive absolute from Bahar. Again, notice that we have no pronouns or prepositions on these. This is because these are absolutes. Absolute forms do not take prepositions or pronouns. What about number 19? Kum. Since cum is the dictionary form, we're well aware of the fact that this is a cal infinitive construct, because the cal infinitive construct is the dictionary form of hollow verbs. However, this is also a cal imperative 2ms, so that we have cum in both instances. This is not a cal infinitive absolute. Cal infinitive absolute actually looks different. Instead, this is a cal imperative or a cal infinitive. Let's move on now to our next set of exercises. Here in this set of exercises, we're once again doing translation. So how do we translate number 1? Noticing that we have an infinitive absolute in front of an absolute verb. The use of the infinitive absolute here is emphatic, so we usually translate this as surely or definitely. You will surely listen to, or in this case, obey my voice. We can translate it obey because we have the bait preposition on the next word, kali, which is my voice. So we have bakoli. You will listen to my voice. You will obey my voice. This is one of those combinations that you will learn over time that certain prepositions following certain verbs get translated in particular ways. Shema with a bait is obey. You will surely obey my voice. What about the second one here? These are the words of Satan in number 4 in Genesis chapter 3. You will not surely die. Again, we have the emphatic use of the infinitive absolute, mot, in front of the absolute verb you will die, tamutu. We have the negation on the front, no. So, no, surely you will die. You will not surely die, or you will surely not die. What about the third one here? How do we parse number 7 and translate it? Our third question here is actually number 7 in your workbook. We see this from Genesis chapter 15 as God is making a promise to Abraham. We begin with an infinitive absolute, yadoa, to know, which is used emphatically before teda. You will surely know, or know for sure. And then we have ki, which we usually translate as that, although this key clause is simply the content of what is being known. Know that ger, a sojourner, yihya, will be, zarka, your seed or your offspring, ba'aretz, in the land. You will surely know or know for sure that your offspring will be a foreigner in the land. Let's go on now to our next set of exercises. We'll be skipping the first set of exercises in chapter 22 because it goes from English to Hebrew. We're trying to emphasize going from Hebrew to English. So we'll move on to section 2 of the exercises in chapter 22. In this set of exercises, we will be parsing participles. Participles have gender and number. They do not have an indication of person. So we are going to indicate whether or not these are feminine or masculine, plural or singular, and the root. So what about number 1? How do we parse this particular participle? This is a cal active participle, feminine singular. You notice the tav at the end. Tav or hey are most often the indications of feminine, and this comes from halak, so holeket. What about number 4? Number 4, omarim, and remember the schwa underneath the mem is vocal because a holum is a long vowel, so this is not omrim, this is omarim, is a cal active participle, masculine plural. The hirik yod mem is a giveaway here, from amar. What about number 7? Motsa'ah, again, the hey in the comments should be a direct giveaway that this is feminine singular. Cal active participle, the holum over the mem indicating the participle. What about number 10? Number 10 is a cal active participle feminine singular, which is indicated by the comments hey here on ra'ah. Even though hey is part of the root, it is still indicative of the feminine singular. If this was a masculine singular, it would actually be ro'eh, with a segol and a hey, rather than a comments and a hey. What about number 13? The Heroic Yod Mem on number 13 should have given away that this was a masculine plural from cum. Again, that infinitive construct being the dictionary form. The kaf plus the mem with no hollow verb here is fairly common in the cal, just not in the infinitives. What about number 16? Once again, in number 16, the tav at the end indicates that this is a feminine singular participle, a cal active participle, feminine singular from yatsa, to go out. So yotzeit. You'll notice that the aleph has quiesced. It's simply serving as a helping vowel in some ways for the sere, although it's not even really necessary because this is a long vowel in a closed accented syllable. But since it's part of the root, it stays. It just doesn't take any vowel. So yotzeit. What about number 19? Again, number 19 ends in a hey, indicating the feminine singular. So this is a cal active participle from bachar, which means to choose. Let's move on now to our final set of exercises, some simple translation as we wrap up this particular set. Again, some simple translation. So how do we translate number 1? Number 1 has 2 words ending in a final kaf. The first word, the messenger, mala'ak, as well as the participle, halek. The messenger was going. And where was he going? He was going el hahekal, to the temple. What about number 4? Number 4 tells us about the priests, hakohanim, and it tells us that they are writing, kotavim. They are writing the words at hadavarim, the words in the book, basefer. The priests are writing the words in the book. What about number 7? Number 7 begins with the participle, yosavim. They are dwelling, and now we're told who's dwelling. Hazakain, the elder, and his daughters. And they are dwelling where? Ba'ir, in the city. Hara, the evil city. The elder and his daughters are dwelling in the evil city. But last but not least, how do we translate number 10? Number 10 begins with that famous word, Baruch. This is actually a passive participle, be blessed. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu is actually a very common start to a lot of Jewish prayers. Blessed be the Lord our God. Here it's Baruch Adonai Elohe Yisrael. Blessed be Yahweh, the God of Israel. We continue on by describing this God of Israel, Asher, which or who he has or who has, and then the verb from Natan, give, he has given, Hayom, yom plus the definite article, this day, Yoshev, sitting, sitting al kisi, sitting upon my throne. We have here one who is sitting upon my throne. This is most likely David talking about Solomon. Blessed be the Yahweh, the God of Israel, who has given today one who sits, Yoshev, one who is sitting upon my throne. Well, hopefully you've been able to grasp how exactly we use the participles in these particular instances, and hopefully you've also been able to grasp how the infinitive constructs and absolutes work and how we translate them. Again, a participle is a verbal adjective. A infinitive is a verbal noun. If you keep those in your mind, hopefully that will be able to help you translate more effectively.